Hi everybody, it's me again and we're still in the series of content creation and I'm so excited today because I have here with me our multimedia and graphic designer. He manages our design team at BrandSpeakAsia and he's been with us for 10 years already. So imagine, so guess nyo na lang kung ilang taon na siya. Medyo lang. He's a very talented guy, all around very patient guy. He's ready to help us for whatever we need in the company. I'd like to welcome you, Mr. Jerome Guzman. Hi,
Hello,
Jerome.
everyone. Hi.
Thanks so much, Jerome, for joining us today.
Thank you, Miss Leigh, for inviting me.
Okay, so Jerome, I have a few questions for you because we're still in the series of content creation and you being a multimedia and graphic designer and you've been with us for quite a while. I want to ask you first, what was your course in college?
Well, my course in college is multimedia arts. I studied at De La Salle College of St. Louis. Yeah, that's my
And
course.
was that something that you really liked before, Jerome? Was that your interest already?
Yes, I'm very interested in graphic design, specifically in creating advertisements like magazine advertisements, newspapers, radio commercials, or TV ads. But I took a very particularly interest in web development, in scripting. Back then, we have a computer class, creating web codes. We use Notepad, the HTML tags. Okay.
Wow.
I was very interested in that subject. So that's why I took up multimedia arts at De La Salle College of St. Benil because of that interest. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yes. So back then, when I was still studying in college, I was very fond of photography, and I took a special course in advertising design, and black and white photography because I really want to make a career out of it. To work in the advertising industry.
Wow, that's so good. Parang you're so mature na when you were young, Jerome. Right? You really wanted to prepare for it. I mean, most people
Yes, I did.
in college, they don't know what to do first. But you, it seems like you're already preparing towards that. Where do you get your inspiration when you create your design?
Of Pinterest because
Internet.
Pinterest has been my go-to place whenever I want to look for design pegs, for fonts, colors, images that I want to use for a specific design that I'm working on. These are very effective social media sites that I go to, like Instagram. I also check Instagram, and I also check Canva. They have templates there. I don't use Canva specifically for designing. I just use it for looking for design pegs
Yeah,
that I want to
right.
get inspired. Yes,
Is there a specific category in Pinterest that you look at?
I actually check the mood boards specifically
Oh,
for mood boards. I search, I just type there mood boards or mood board creation, something that I will really use for a specific design that I'm working on.
when you do check mood boards, it's complete na. Like you have colors, you have
Yes,
texture.
yeah,
You mentioned you don't use Canva. Obviously, I believe that's because you've been a graphic designer, and Canva really is more for non-designers. And I want to ask you, Jerome, what are
mhm.
the other tools that you use in graphic design?
For me, I'm very used to in using Adobe products like Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. So these are the softwares that I regularly use in my daily life as a graphic artist. So I used Adobe Photoshop in editing photos, enhancing it, and I use Adobe Illustrator in creating logos or the vector arts like cartoons or the 2D type of design. And I use Adobe InDesign for brochure layout, flyers, those materials.
Right. So with Adobe products, you completely work something from scratch. It's like a blank canvas, no? So
Yes.
that's really for you. So do you think, Jerome, like an ordinary person who didn't study multimedia graphic artist, can also become a graphic designer using these tools, even if hindi sila nag-aral
Yes, definitely. Yes. I mean, most of the learnings that I'm not used to back in college, we're only taught the basics,
Okay.
basic Photoshop, basic Illustrator, basic InDesign. So I only learned to further use these tools when I was already working. So I learned online, I learned through my peers. So even though you're a beginner or you're not used to the softwares, you can really learn from scratch, from just watching YouTube tutorials. Yes,
So
there are a lot
good.
of yes on how to's like guides. YouTube has a lot of tutorials.
Yeah, that's good because it has a lot to do with attitude also, no?
Yeah.
Not really on talent, and of course, obviously, this is your natural
Mhm.
gifting, and you have interest in design. But I guess with you, that's a good advice also for those aspiring graphic artists that it has a lot to do with continuous learning. You can see anything
That's right.
online, right? Continuous
Hmm.
learning, be
Yes.
progressive. So that's something, especially now, we live in a world where social media is actually our main platform for getting inspiration and content. So, what are your challenges naman as a graphic designer?
Our challenges that we face is deadline. That's number one, and the second is usually it's the design brief or the design direction. So first, the deadline. So the only thing that you can do to overcome that challenge is really to manage your time, knowing
Right.
what to do first. Yes, prioritizing. And then the second one is design direction or design brief. Now, in order
Right.
for you to really work on it to overcome any challenges that you're about to face in following a certain design brief or design direction, is really to talk to the client or read the design brief properly. Well, if you don't have any enough materials for that, you do your own research or you brainstorm with your team in developing a certain design for the in order for you to complete the design brief that the client is requesting.
Right. I like that. Like design brief, that means that you're not just designing based on your own. There's really like a direction that you're following also from the client because even as you are the designer for this, there's another party which you're designing for. So you must be very, you must be very aware of that. You're conscious about what the client wants also. So I like that
That's
kind of
right.
mindset because as a designer, as an artist, especially the younger ones, it's so easy to feel emotional or disappointed when your design has a lot of corrections or revisions, right? You're feeling like your masterpiece is being attacked. But
Yes, that's
design
true.
is a process between two parties. So I
That's
really like
right.
that concept. Hopefully, our graphic designers, aspiring graphic artists can learn from that. What Jerome said, it's very, very critical. Especially like with Jerome, he doesn't just design, he also manages a design team. My question with Jerome is, in terms of dynamic, how do you balance that, being a manager, having designers, and if they submit to you certain designs, how do you comment on that? Or if you're not unhappy with a particular design, how do you balance that where you correct but not really stifle the creativity of the other person?
So what we do, for example, you're working on logo design. So knowing what your team, specific team, their strengths, their weaknesses. So as much as possible, you don't criticize them while they're doing work. You just give them the workload
Good.
as if they're doing it. Do not micromanage too much. Just allow their creativity to flow.
Right.
So once your team members submit a certain design, like for example, a logo design, you assess. So if this logo design works or this other logo design is not working, you just play around and make sure that you don't criticize the person doing it as much as
Yes.
possible
So
because you
good.
don't want to create a negativity in the workplace that you're working in.
Right.
So that's it. Try to work along with your team, do not criticize, and manage their workload.
That's good because it's really the artwork that you're criticizing and whatever it is that you do anyway, it's really to create, constructive criticism for the betterment of the other
That's
person.
right.
So that's so important to us. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jerome. Now we'll move on to show you the rationale behind design elements. So stay tuned.
Hi, hello everyone. Today I'll be sharing you a short course outline about graphic design. So we have 7 here. So I'm gonna share with you a brief introduction, and then followed by the elements of design, and then the principles of design, the color theory, the mood board, the design softwares that I used, and the design process that I do. Okay, introduction to graphic design. So what is graphic design? So graphic design is a visual communication by a skillful combination of text and pictures in advertisements, magazine, books, and other marketing collaterals. So when did graphic design begin? So the origins of graphic design started or can be traced from the start of the human origins. These can be actually seen in the cave writings on the wall, the pictographs, as you call it. So where did graphic design now? So graphic design now can be seen in our mobile phone. It can be also seen in the t-shirts that we're wearing, the souvenir shirts in particular. And then these can also be seen in the condiments, the sauces that we use in our kitchen table. So basically, graphic design can be seen in our everyday lives. So through social media and television shows, part of our clothing apparel, in food packaging, and many more. So it is seen everywhere. So we need it. We need graphic design. So why do we need it? Of course, we want to create the environment that we want our target audience to feel. And also we want to attract our audience to use our product or service, or if we have an event, we can entice them to come to our events. And lastly, to deliver the message that we want our target audience to feel through visual materials that we have. So how do we make graphic design? So first is to know the principles and elements of design. Second is to set the design theme. Third is to use tools in creating graphic design. And lastly, to apply the process in creating graphic designs. So basically, that's a brief intro about graphic design. So I'll be talking about the next part of our outline, which is the elements of design. So what are the elements of design? So there are 7 elements. So it's line, color, texture, size, shape, space, and value. So first is line. Line is an element of art defined by a point moving in space. So these lines can be classified to vertical, horizontal, or wavy lines. So next is color. So color is the characteristic of a visual perception described through color categories. So these are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or purple. Or even white, black, because of gray, the neutral colors. So next is texture. So texture is perceived surface quality of work of art. It is an element of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional designs and is distinguished by its perceived visual and physical properties. So I'll be showing you some samples of textures. So we have here chalkboard texture, cement, wood, and marble. So these are the common textures that we see and use. So next is shape. So shape is a flat enclosed area of an artwork created through lines, textures, colors, or an area enclosed by other shapes such as triangles, circles, and squares. So these are the common shapes that we see every day. Square, circle, triangle, rectangle, and other sided shapes like the 5-sided shape is a pentagon, and then we have hexagon. We also have the rhombus and the rhomboid. So next is size. Size is the magnitude or dimensions of a thing. So we have here the common sizes, small, medium, large. Then the next is space. So in design, space is concerned with the area deep within the moment of designated design. The design will take place on. So for example here, we have the white spaces, as you can see. The next is value. Value is known as the lightness or tone. So these are the lightness or the shades. This is actually seen through gradient design. You see the lightness transitioning to darkness. So those are the elements of design. So next is we move on to the principle of design. So the principles of design, we have 6 here. So we have unity, balance, hierarchy, scale, emphasis, and similarity and contrast. Okay, so first is unity. Unity is the elements when all the elements are in agreement. So the design is considered unified, hence unity. So no individual part is viewed as more important than the whole design. So we have this example here. So as you can see, we have the shapes here. They're all circles. Then we have the colors, shades of brown, and the sizes. You can see they're small, medium, large. And then balance. So balance is in visual design is asymmetry balance, and radial balance. So these are samples of balance. The common balance that we see is the yin and yang. It is actually classified as a symmetrical design. Then asymmetrical design is perceived an artwork that is somehow it is balanced, yet the object is not the same. Like for example, in this photo we have here the photo of a butterfly on the other side, and on the upper side is the flowers, or the flowers rather. So radial balance, as you can see, these objects are forming into a circular motion or circular shape. So actually, it's not that common to see a radial balance in design. The most common designs that we see that has balance is used is symmetrical and asymmetrical. So going back to our design here, our ad design, we have here the upper part of the design is the text, the main highlight of the advertisement, and then the lower part, the image, and then on the bottom part is the call to action, which is the registration link. Okay, we now move on to the next principle of design, which is hierarchy. So hierarchy can be achieved if a good design contains elements that lead the reader through each element in order of its significance. So going back to our design, as you can see, the logo is the most prominent or the most visible part of the design, so it's bigger. So it's the focal point of the design. So your readers, or your viewers rather, can see the main message of your advertisement. So this going back to the principle designs, we have here scale. So using the relative size of elements against each other can attract attention to a focal point. So scale, as you can see here in our design again, we have here the event logo, which is the biggest among the design that you can see here, the design elements. And the main image will be the laptop and the notebook, as you can see. It's the next. And then the smallest image that you can see here is the photo of the people in the Zoom app. It's right here, over here. There we go. Okay. The next principle of design that I'll be sharing with you is the emphasis. So emphasis or dominance can be created by the contrasting size, position, color, style, or shape. So this is the focal point of the design. So the main focal point of the design is the event logo. So lastly, the last principle of design that I'll be sharing is the similarity and contrast. So it is defined here that similarity and contrast is planning a consistent and similar design is an important aspect of a designer's work to make the focal point visible. So going back to our design here, as in order to achieve the focal point of our design is to have light and dark colors. So we have here red, the shades of red. We have pink and dark shades of red, which is seen as brown here. So it's both a mixture and the composition of using red colors, pink, and brown. So using those colors, we have the achieving the light and the dark colors. There you go. So we have here the similarity and contrast. So those are the principles of design. We now move on to the psychology of color. Psychology of colors. So we have here red. Red evokes the feeling of love, power, and attention. As you can see, we have here a photo of a rose. So every Valentine's Day, we see this. So it is actually evokes the feeling of love. That's why we use red. Next is orange. Orange is used to evoke the feelings of creativity, energy, and curiosity. So as you can see, That's why in advertisements, if you see the orange, somehow we feel energized. Next is yellow. Yellow evokes the feeling of happiness, warmth, and optimism. So like the sunflower image here that you see, somehow when you see it, your mood lightens up. Somehow you feel warm, you feel happy. And then the next color is green. So green is used to evoke the feeling of prosperity, as well as growth and kindness. So here in our photo, we have here a leaf, growing leaf, growing plant. Next is blue. Blue evokes the feeling of peace. Somehow you feel the feeling of calmness, like when you're on a beach. Somehow you feel relaxed. Yeah, that's why you use the color blue. And then violet. Violet evokes the feelings of royalty, luxury, and prestige, like the ring that you see here, the jewel. The next color is brown. So brown is an earthy, comforting, and stable color. Like here, the wood. It represents sturdiness, the earth. The next color is white. White shows us some purity, cleanliness, goodness. Like here, that's why in weddings we use white, purity. And then the last color is black, elegance, formality, and authority. That's why we have luxury cars. It's very elegant to look at. Okay, so that sums up the psychology of color.